Hey guys, what's up? I know it's been a tough year for everyone, us included. We just wanted to share to you guys, how it's been going for us.
And we did want to just divide this video into 3 parts. The good stuff that happened, the bad, and also how we're handling everything these days.
So if you guys want to hear about it, stay tuned.
Let's get into the video.
Let's do this.
So I think a good place to start is what we've been struggling with, like the hard parts. Us being a young family, one of the main things that we had a hard time with was definitely the childcare. As we were moving into the pandemic, the childcare started with our children weren't able to go to the daycare that they were at because,
obviously it closed down.
Yeah, it closed. And so originally we had a family member come in to help us. Lockdown came into play, and then we kind of had to handle it on our own. And we had 2 kids at the time.
At the time, we had 2 kids. Jill was still kind of finishing her contract before going on mat leave. And I was also working at the same time. So luckily, my schedule was pretty flexible and we were able to take turns kind of taking care of the kids.
And even though it seems as though we're all kind of within the same house, I felt more alone than ever. He would watch the kids in the morning, and then I would go into work, and then he would work, and then I would watch the kids in the afternoon. And so we weren't really able to work as a team.
I would work up until maybe midnight
and
sometimes.
He would continue working sometimes late into the night.
Yeah.
It's weird to say I didn't really see you that much. We just alternated care.
Her parents couldn't come down, and my parents are obviously still working.
Yeah.
And plus all the lockdown restrictions. That was just the reality we had to face, and we just had to tackle it head on and survive somehow.
And I feel we also had to try to kind of create some semblance of normalcy for our children.
Oh, yeah.
And that kind of brings us to the next really difficult part of the lockdown, which was kind of the mental strain. I think it was personally my lowest mentally, because it took its toll.
For me too. It was just being cooped up at home and getting, cabin fever.
So much cabin fever.
Oh my gosh.
What we were trying to do is sort of protect the other person from feeling even more mental strain. So I would be trying to kind of keep all of my feelings bottled up, just because I knew things were really stressful on him and I didn't want to stress him out further.
We were both trying to outdo each other in service to each other. It was starting to be we were trying to outmartyr each other.
Yeah. It's no, I'll do it. I'll do it.
No, fine. Just go rest. I'll do it.
Yeah, there's all this resentment floating around. We were each taking on a load.
Begrudgingly as well.
Yeah, we were
begrudgingly helping each other.
The reason why it's important for us to open up is because so many people are going through these similar things behind closed doors. It's just healthy to know that there are other families who are experiencing these kinds of strains. And our kids are very young. They're young enough to realize something is not right, but they're not old enough yet to sort of be okay with what we have to do as a family to kind of ensure that we're all safe.
How do you explain a pandemic to, toddlers?
Yeah. We obviously ourselves have never experienced it in our lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
So it was really hard to kind of figure out how to help them, because we were also struggling ourselves. We also kind of had this sense of a fear of the unknown. I was actually experiencing a pregnancy and facing the impending labor and delivery at the time where everything was at its height. We didn't really know what kind of restrictions might happen in terms of what it would be at the hospitals. I was actually mentally preparing for the possibility that he would not be in the labor and delivery room with me.
Which would have been so tough and also so scary.
Yeah.
For both of us.
I know.
I wouldn't have wanted her to go through all of that, on her own as well. Because I know how tough it was for the previous 2.
I was just kind of preparing in my head. I was well, at least this is my 3rd child. I know what to expect. But that was one of the really scary things. And even the scarcity of material items. Toilet paper was flying off the shelves. Amazon was no longer selling diapers. We were just kind of what if we don't have the supplies that we need to take care of our
baby
kids?
Formula was it was sometimes sold out on Amazon. And I was oh my gosh.
Looking back at it, we didn't do any serious hoarding at all.
More scavenging than anything.
Yeah, we were just kind of like, let's try to travel up here to get stuff.
We crossed like different regions back when it was like allowed. So I had to go like 2 or 3 towns over to get toilet paper it was a mess.
So I guess those were our struggles when it came to this past year and how we dealt with those. But we also had a lot of successes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I wouldn't say that like the struggles outweighed the successes because our wins were actually really big this past year. When I discovered that I was pregnant with our 3rd child, AJ and I were, I would say, like not in the best place financially.
No.
Normally it's like a really happy occasion to find out and like, oh my god, we're having a kid. This brought on this sense of, you know,
fear. It was like gripping.
A lot of fear. We were like, well, how are we going to support this 3rd child financially?
Candidly, I was drowning in debt.
Yeah, exactly.
Bad debt, credit card debt.
I know that something snapped and we just needed to get it together financially. The following year is when we really were able to get our act together, but like not just like get it together, but like kill it. We really were able to sort of work together in a way that was like so much healthier.
Admittedly, I had to be on the same page with Gill on, you know, financial matters because my relationship with money wasn't good before. Honestly, like our 3rd was our miracle baby because
it made this sort of like environment where we kind of became accountable to each other.
It was a lifestyle change, honestly, but you know, like once you have a goal and you know your reason for it is strong enough, you will do whatever it takes.
Exactly.
Even me, like I started a side hustle. Something artistic, an artistic venture.
And like I was like selling off stuff. I was like, we don't need this, we don't need this. I had like
selling off Pokemon cards.
I had Pokemon cards and I was like, people really want this. So I sold those off and we really like did so well financially. And I think that one of the big wake up calls for us was that if this pandemic had happened and let's say one of us or both of us lost our jobs, and that was very possible because it did happen to a lot of households, like would we be okay? And the answer, which scared me so much, was no. And so it kind of shifted our mindset.
I was able to climb out of debt, and even, you know, to the point where I paid off all my credit card debt within this past year, and I'm really proud of kind of like how much we've climbed out of
of where we were, and in such a short period of time. That was one of like the pluses for this past year, was that we did really well financially. The other thing that was great, like the first initial thing I mentioned, was like the birth of our daughter. She's just been like the happiest, most joyful baby. Just the fact that like she's with us, that we have her with us, that we see her growing.
She only knows like, you know, 4 people in her life.
She has never seen the light of day. No, I'm just kidding.
We keep her in a box.
I'm proud to say that she's like our little pandemic baby. And, you know, even though she hasn't seen the outside very often, you know what? Like, she is thriving. It's been fun to, like, just watch her grow this past year. So at the beginning of this year, we actually talked about starting a YouTube channel.
Like, her and I could keep talking on and on about stuff. So we're like, why don't we start a YouTube channel? Why don't we start a podcast?
The thing that surprises me the most is the fact that, like, I said yes to it.
Oh, yeah, that surprised me too. Honestly, I was about to do this alone.
I know, he was. And I was like, this isn't really my thing. The moment that we started trying it out and just kind of like recording a few videos here and there, I was like, dang, like, I love this. Like, I just started to grow this immense passion for the editing process and coming up with ideas with him. A really healthy thing is that, like, we can be creative together, and I don't think we've ever really done that before. And
it's a hobby we can both do.
Exactly.
Together.
We both have been, just kind of in a rut, I would say.
Marriage-wise, it was good. The strain of obviously being in this situation and being in the house, and it was getting to us. So we needed an outlet to kind of allow us to get out of that. I
think that, like, we've just been enjoying it so much. Like, a lot of people would think, like, how do you have time for, doing like something like YouTube? And honestly, like, you make time for it if you love it. And so we're just making time for it because we love it. It's almost midnight and our children are asleep, and we do the same thing when we edit these videos. Honestly, if there were only like 2 people watching this, I would still love doing it.
So please give us a like so we can keep doing this.
Yes, please do. And also subscribe to the channel because, you know.
Because we're cool.
Yeah.
So those were the negatives and positives of this past year. So now, you know, just a little update on how we're doing currently.
I honestly find that like this year has given us this opportunity to discover like our strengths and weaknesses without any distractions for us to not notice them. We are a family of 5 within 4 walls, and it really brings out like the good in us, the bad in us, and like we're starting to be able to get used to and catch ourselves if we're getting to a point where we need a little bit of like a boost, or we need a little bit of like motivation.
I think this whole situation has made everyone just a little bit stronger. We're like kind of learning how to be more patient, more understanding of our kids. It's kind of been a good way to strengthen our character, really.
Yeah, if I'm noticing that like I'm starting to feel stressed out, I'm not going to try to hide it from him. I'm going to really be like, listen, I think I need an hour to myself, and he's so good about like respecting that. Same goes both ways. Neither of us thought this would last up until an entire year later. We're almost used to this life. Like we're used to walking outside and having to put our masks on. Like, you know, we just adjusted. And so
you have no choice but to adjust.
We just really do look forward to the day where we can just walk out of the house
without
a mask and just sort of like go on a road trip.
see everyone's faces again.
Going back to like our YouTube channel, this is sort of like a way for us to kind of still communicate with people in a sense without necessarily having to go see someone face to face. And we intend to continue doing this as long as, you know, YouTube is still around.
With that said, you know, we hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Comment down below, you know, what your experience is during this pandemic. Let us know like what your highs are, what your lows are.
Also, like if you related to anything that we said, or if like your experience was completely different than what we experienced, and that's okay too. Everyone sees it through a different lens. We're all kind of like experiencing this together, so
we're all in this together, guys.
We're all in this together. So with that said, like the video if you enjoyed it.
Please subscribe to the channel to see more of our content, and hit the bell icon, you know, if you want to know when our next videos drop.
That's right. So I guess that's it, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.